I had a federal air marshal come in today, and I thought I'd talk about kidney disease because the guy was young, healthy, had no other problems except for an elevated BUN creatinine. Those are two blood tests that you get to test the function of the filtering system, the kidney. The kidney is like a filter, like an oil filter in your car. It takes solids, in this case blood, red blood cells, white blood cells, protein. It keeps it in the bloodstream, but it allows byproducts to get out and form in the urine. So the objective is, if you have a well-functioning filter, you get the blood flow that comes to the filter. The bad stuff gets secreted out through the tiniest pores of the filter, and your important things, red blood cells, white blood cells, protein, fibrinogen, other things will stay in the bloodstream and go on and get recirculated. You can also use the kidney for filtering out toxins, for adjusting sodium, potassium, phosphorus, calcium. So it's a great gland. It's a great organ. It also secretes or can secrete certain hormones that regulate blood pressure, lower blood pressure, increase fluid or decrease fluid retention. So you can see how important it is. And we have millions of nephrons, or the little cells that make up the kidney, in each kidney. So the problem that I run into when people are just being watched. Now, my federal air marshal was evaluated, tested. I'm sure he had full testing, looking for why he has the disease. I'm assuming that happened. And he was told he'll just have a blood test every year, and I think that's okay. But after the $1 million workup and finding if this filter is working or not, watching every year to me is kind of waiting for the disease to show itself. And if you certainly control your blood pressure, because this delicate organ, just consider this a kidney. This delicate organ, if you have a high blood pressure front pounding into the kidney, eventually this thing will fail. That's why renal disease or kidney failure, renal insufficiency, it can be caused by hypertension or uncontrolled hypertension. So all you guys out there with white coat hypertension, the statistics will show that eventually your kidneys are going to fail sooner or later. And if they fail, you have to be on special medicines. If they continue to fail, you have to be on dialysis 2 or 3 times a week, and you're stuck there for the rest of your life until you get a kidney from somebody else. So you see why high blood pressure by itself, whether it's white coat hypertension or truly elevated blood pressure, too much sodium, not enough exercise, sedentary life, it all doesn't just affect the blood pressure, it also affects every end organ, like the kidney, or the heart, or the brain. So the problem that we'll run into is if we just wait and watch, you're going to have disease sooner or later. So my suggestion is, in addition to being cognizant about the weight, I would actually try to drop weight. I think going for that college level weight or that pre-baby weight would be important. Most women will gain some pounds after a baby, and then marks the change in life from 30 to 40 or 50, and then we keep those pounds. Guys, same thing with stressors. You'll gain weight with every year. There's half a pound that's accumulated during the time of the 3 important holidays: Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, even New Year's. And then we keep on a half pound every year. If we keep on a half pound every year, after about a decade, you'll have a 5 pound to 10 pound weight gain. And that'll keep on accumulating into your 60s when you have all these medical problems and you need medicines. So the idea with, in this case, I think this is where alternative and complementary medicine is far superior. If we're just watching and assuming that the full workup was all negative, no disease, no nephrotic disease in the kidney, then I would say don't just watch. Also, you might want to, number 1, keep the weight down. Number 2, get into some cardiovascular exercise. Number 3, there are certain things you want to avoid. You want to avoid anti-inflammatories. You want to avoid going too high or too low on your fluid intake. Creatine for athletes, and there are some athletes that are in their 30s and 40s that take creatine. Creatine should be avoided because it's a high solute that can, when you're dehydrated, really concentrate into the kidney and destroy a couple kidneys. There are some limited studies that show that wrestlers, especially when they add the creatine to their regime in cycling up to max out on their weight lifting, has the wrestlers dehydrate to make weight, they also cause a dehydrated state with the creatine on board, and that destroys kidneys. Football players don't usually have that because they don't usually get into that have to make weight kind of flurry of losing 10 pounds of water fast before a meet. So creatine should be avoided. There are some other medicines that should be taken. Dandelion root is certainly a good medicine that helps get rid of extra fluid. Sometimes the use of dandelion root is a little bit smoother than our Lasix or our water pills that we give in prescription form. I think that having a multivitamin, having magnesium, again, I always like magnesium because it lowers blood pressure, but in his case, he could use a little bit of blood pressure monitoring. And then having medicines like, or herbs like vitamin D at proper levels, omega-3 fish oil at proper levels. If you can maximize on inflammation, getting as much anti-inflammatory power out of your nutrition and maybe some supplements until you get your nutrition into order would be proper. Most Americans do not follow the 9 fruits and vegetables per day. Mostly vegetables, but if you can throw fruits in there, that's fine. Most Americans don't maximize on 35 grams, men especially, 35 grams of fiber per day, which would help with the bowel movement, which would help with cholesterol lowering, which is another problem is. So I would maximize on everything. In addition, the last thing I'll bring up is that hydration should be key. If you get to a dehydrated state, even if you're not taking creatine, dehydrated state would hit the kidney with a little bit of stress every once in a while. You do that like a truck driver once a shift, that means you're hitting the kidney with damage once a shift, once a day, because of the dehydrated state. No truck driver wants to have a whole bunch of water and have to pull over to pee. And same thing with our businessmen. So the objective would be try to stay hydrated as much as possible. I think a lot of our hunting or our cravings at night are actually because we're dehydrated. America is just not taking enough fluids in. So this would be key. The other thing would be to consider medical acupuncture. Medical acupuncture works in a different theory than obviously Western medicine, but there are specific meridians that pertain to the kidney. Now, putting needles in these meridians that are mapped out from 2,500 years ago are supposed to make energy flow throughout the body and get you healthier. Having said all that, without getting into the definition of why these meridians make you healthy, there are kidney meridians, and in the case of my federal air marshal, I think number one, it wouldn't hurt. You can find a good acupuncturist through either the website I'm going to put here, or you have to kind of search for your local organization. Now he's from Indiana, but you might have to look in Indiana and see what their board certification is, if you can find out the national or the statewide certifying body. They usually will have a list of the acupuncturists in the area that are certified. So that would be an option. I think usually once a month, once every 2 weeks for about a year. I bet you that the kidney function would improve after that. Certainly just waiting and watching to see damage come, I think, is not enough. You can still do that and keep up with the docs, but I would throw in the complementary alternative medicines as we see fit.